To you from the Mike Shannon Suite at St Mary's Stadium in Southampton. I'm Adam Blackmore. This is BBC Radio Solent Sport for the 2019 Southampton Football Club Fans Forum. Enough. Your panel tonight is pretty good, as I think at any standard, for any Premier League club to put these people in positions that they are up to their fans, live on the radio, is a rare and beautiful thing. Your panel, as I look from my left to right, your club captain, Pierre-Emile Højbjerg, your chief executive... Now, don't make the boardroom feel like they're not as important. Your chief executive, Martin Semmens. The man to my right is your first team manager, Ralph Hasenhüttl. And to his right, waiting for the biggest applause of the evening, the managing director, Toby Steele. We are live with a few hundred Saints fans in the Mike Shannon Suite, as I say. We're going to take questions from the floor. Get your hands up. My brilliant colleague Ian Wilding has the microphone, so get your hands up now while I warm these four up very quickly. He will get round the room. These questions are unprepared. The panel don't know what's coming, and it's going to be fun right through until 8 o'clock. Let's start just by saying hello to everybody. Pierre, great to have you. First full season as captain of Southampton Football Club. How does that sound?
Fantastic.
Yeah? And I know you were feeling bad about, obviously, the weekend because you were ill and nobody can help that. We just want to know that you're better. Are you okay now?
I've trained all week. I feel good and ready to go.
Good. I think they might need you. Martin Semmens, Chief Executive officially since, I want to say April, but it's after that officially. We've got June, July. Yep. Big role, change of board structure. How is it?
Fantastic. Sorry,
Come on, tell me about the job. We've gone through a period where we've had an owner, a chairman, different roles, assistant chairman and all sorts. Yep. Now you've got a chief executive. It seems more linear to me. Yep. Tell me about the role you have, how it works with the manager and so on.
Yeah, I think it is pretty linear. That's quite a good word to use. I think probably the first thing to say is nothing's changing dramatically in terms of the plan. So we have a clear way of working. We have the Southampton way that we follow. I think last time we were in this forum, we talked a little bit about perhaps we missed that by a little bit, and we did a few things that were not productive for the long term, and all we're trying to do is get back to that. And then secondly, I think on the linear structure, we now probably got more of a nimble structure where everybody knows what they're doing. Ralph is very clear on his role, I'm very clear on my role, and we go to work. So it's been a very busy summer, very hard work. My family can't remember who I am, but it's been a lot of fun.
Good. Ralph, first full season, first pre-season. How are you enjoying the job, the people, the area, your environment?
More than fantastic. So. To keep a line, I think, we had a very tough transfer period. I think in the possibilities we have, I think we stayed on track what we wanted to be. I think for the future for this club, it's very important that we also in the future sign players. They maybe need a little time when they come here to develop, but they have a lot of talent, and when we are working good and we are working hard, then they can help us in the future a lot, and then they become maybe very big players, and I think that's the only way we can go. And I think we stayed on this track extremely in this transfer period, signed players, young players, I think with good character. The one was a little bit quicker with Che Adams. We just wanted to sign him in winter, but it was good that he was here the whole 6 weeks from the preseason. And Kevin Danso, the last one, a little bit late, but finally just in time. So I'm very happy. that we got these 3 young players, and now the rest is about a better starting that tonight with your
And Saturday.
And we on Saturday. It was. I think it's important.
Should we write this week off? Just move on.
Yeah.
Okay. The season starts Saturday for all of us. And of course, I'm sure you've got questions about the transfers, recruitment, the summer window, and everything else. So get those hands up. Ian's over there. He's obviously got someone to kick us off. Keep putting your hands up regularly. Toby Steele, Managing Director. It's a different structure to some companies. Managing Director working alongside the Chief Executive at the same sort of level. So just explain the difference between the Chief Executive and the Managing Director.
Yeah, my role is a lot more business focused probably than Martin's. We work very closely together, particularly in terms of information we pass up to the owners. I've got a financial background, so I spend a lot of time on that element, particularly at the moment around the transfer window, working closely with Ross Wilson, who you know last Thursday was pretty intense around that, and it's been a good summer for us working together, looking at the targets that Ralph has, the target that Ross has, and looking to see how that fits in with our financial plan. So I guess get involved in probably a lot more detail than Martin, but we work very closely together and making sure we're achieving the strategy of the club.
Okay, so you do all the work and he takes all the credit, yeah?
They were your words, but...
Okay, let's go to the floor and get this forum started. Ian Wilding's over at the back there. Just a name, please, sir.
Stephen Barnett.
Hello, Steve.
This is more for Martin and Toby. There's been a lot of talk this summer about trying to generate atmosphere and noise in the ground. So I'm just wondering, is there any plans to remove away fans off the Northam and maybe turn parts or all of Northam into a safe standing area?
Yeah, this is a perennial one, isn't it? Let's go with... Oh, very good. The buck's already gone. Toby, it looks like you're taking a bit of that.
Yeah, so the away fans is really a motive subject. We undertook a survey through Saints Voice about 6-9 months ago, and there was a really, really strong feeling about moving them. But what we found was that people didn't want to be moved themselves. So, of course, if you displace 3,000 people, you're going to have to move 3,000 people out of their current seats. We continued with the review. It's pretty expensive to move. There's a lot of infrastructure changes, and we're looking to see whether we should spend the money on doing that, or whether actually that's better to be spent in the first team squad, within the academy, with other infrastructure projects that we want to do. The stadium is getting old now. There's certain things we need to do behind the scenes that money might be better spent. So really to conclude on that, we've got another couple of months worth of review. We've got to take it to the safety advisory group, the council, the police, the ambulance, all those people that are involved in giving us our safety certificate. So if we're going to move people, they've got to sign it off first. So our next stage is to take it to them, and then we'll communicate our decision probably in the next 2 or 3 months.
Thank you, Toby. Good old health and safety. Ian, where are we going next? Come on, Waldo, jump to it. When someone's asking a question, if you've got a question, stick your hand up so we can get to you.
Hi, I'm Connor.
Hello.
Probably a question for Martin and Toby again. 4 or 5 years ago, obviously, we were in Europe. We went to Milan. We had a great time up there. But now we've had a few seasons of, I'd probably say, mediocrity. You probably agree with me. What kind of steps are the club taking in place? What things that you guys have implemented? What steps are we taking to kind of get us back to the top 7, top 8, and compete with the big boys, basically?
Thank you. Martin, yours.
Okay. So we would agree that we want to get back to where we were before. I think everybody in the room would think that. I think that the thing that's changed is probably the structure of the Premier League, right? So you've got 6 teams at the top, maybe 1 or 2 more than that are really out of reach for us financially. So we're not going to get there by overspending, overcompeting within the transfer market. And there's a group of clubs at the bottom that are fighting for their lives every week, every year, and we don't want to be in that group either. And we don't want to be in that group because it's painful for everybody in this room, and I can see that in your eyes, and it's painful. I can promise you it's equally as painful for us. But there's a bigger reason why we don't want to be in that group, because we then can't build on a plan week after week, year after year. So we have to be in that middle group consistently every year, because then we can invest and we can plan, and we can do some of the things that we did this summer with Ralph on a much calmer, more logical footing. So the strategy of the club, what we're trying to do is stay within that group between, let's say, 7 and 12 every year, not because that's enough for us, but because if we stay in that group, we have a chance to reach up to 6 and get back to Europe and go to a cup final. Only by being in that group every year will we have the investment, the time, the planning to get back to that moment. And in any level of sport you play, I'm sure there's people like me that play every Saturday when I'm not watching football, a lower level of sport, you want to be in it. You want to be able to have a chance to win something. It's not always about the winning, it's about being in the group so you have a chance to go. And everybody in this room, including everybody on this panel, wants to have that every year. Even if we fall short at a semi-final or we don't quite make it, we have to be in that group. And if you're not in that group, it's a bloody awful place to be. I've just sworn again, Jordan, sorry. But that's the key. All right, so be in that group, keep planning, build year after year after year, because you can't go and buy Virgil van Dijk back. We don't have that money, so we have to build our own people.
Yeah, they don't want to know. That's okay.
Good.
You don't apologise to Jordan. You can apologise to the radio listeners as well.
Sorry about that.
No, it's okay. I'm only joking.
It's always going to happen.
What you're basically saying is, of course, if you are at Christmas worrying about relegation, you can't make the plans to move up it in time for the summer, can you?
Yeah,
because you don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah, let me be utterly clear. Okay, when you're working in a football club in the positions we're in, if you're in that kind of position, it's a life-consuming problem. It's not something we think about on a Friday afternoon. It's every morning, every night, and therefore you can't plan for the future. So I think some of the mistakes that were made here were made because people were looking left rather than straight ahead. So if you can get the plan on track and we can keep building, then you have a really good chance. But if you're behind the 8 ball, or whatever the analogy is, constantly, how do you ever get out of it? So we have to be in that group. It's the reason Ralph's here. Ralph understands that. If we stay in that group, we'll have a chance to go back to where we all want to be.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Next, sir.
Yeah, I've got a question for Ralph. This is Martin from Paul. We've got a defence which is, well, I shall magnanimously, I'll say, is quite generous, shall we say. You know, for the last 2 years. And on Saturday, it was Groundhog Day again. So I would have thought after the Huddersfield game, the first thing we would have done, you know, is go out to get yourself a decent defender. Now, Kevin Danzo, I don't know anything about, but, you know, he came in at the 11th hour. How do you see us going forward with this defence? Because I'm sat there tearing my hair out week in, week out, and I'm not the only one. Right. I mean, you listen.
Okay, good start, Mark. Defence.
So, as you know, I'm with you that we must do everything to receive less goals or to concede less goals than last season. It's for sure. I think we had not really a big problem for scoring, and also in the preseason we showed that we can score beautiful goals, and that's something, a part of our game that is really just very good developed, I think, so far. To concede less goals, I know it's lovely to speak about our back five or back four, whatever you want, or goalkeeper, but a good defending team starts in the very front, and I think the most important thing for us is when we work together as a team, we can also play good games against the big teams. I think last season against the big teams at home, we showed that we can defend also very well. I'm with you, clean sheets, we didn't have so many so far, and that's absolutely a point we must work on, and that's the reason why we tried to get a young centre-back in the team. He has a few qualities, I think they help us a lot. He's very quick, and but we have to pay attention. He's a young guy, we don't want to overload him. He's here now since 1 week, shows that he can help us in the future. The most important thing is if they make mistakes, then we should help them to get better and don't damn them, or I don't know, say that after 1 game or after 2 games that he's not good enough for us. I know that he can be a guy who can help us in the future, and it is very difficult. If you look around, a team in the north bought a centre-back this season, this transfer period, I think, for more than 70 million. And you know, a good centre-back in the moment is for us to pay. It's not possible, I must tell. We were looking for a lot of them, and even young, talented, you are speaking about 25, 30 million or more. So what we do is to find maybe this one jewelry that is not that known, as you said. You don't know him so far. I hope you will know him better after a few games and in a good way. And this is what I will work for. I try to build up these guys, and I think we have a good chance with him to get more stabilized in the defense, and hopefully in the next games have 1 more clean sheet.
Let me start. Let me just go to get a player's perspective on this. Pierre, as captain, I mean, fans always feel it in the stands, but I think we forget sometimes you're all human, and when things go wrong, it's probably more painful for you than anybody, isn't it?
No, it's never nice because in the end you feel as players and as a team in the end responsibility for the result when it goes well, when it goes bad. So and we take also the full responsibility. We're not hiding. I think everybody is aware that there is an enormous amount of potential in the team, but as the coach say, we all need time. But in football, you don't have time. So it's a balance between working on the right things and still believing you're on the right track, and still knowing, okay, on Saturday we need a result. So, but I'm very sure the way we're working with the players, with the coach, with the club, good times ahead.
Thank you, Pierre. Right. Where's Ian? Let's take the next question. I can't even see him. You must be. There he is. Right. Oh, hiding in there. Nice, comfortable there.
Tina
Good.
Woodmansey, this is
Hello.
for Ralph.
Yes.
What's going to happen to the players that don't focus in your plans with the other players?
Right. Thank you very much. We will talk about the ones that aren't in the squad. I guess you're talking about like Lamina, like Carrijo, like Hoot, Elianusi, maybe that aren't currently involved. What is going to happen to the players that aren't in your current makeup of squad?
What has happened to them in the moment? They are training with a separate group. Some players of them, you know, it is very difficult to train in tactical things if you have 30 players on the pitch. It's nearly not possible. So that is the reason why we try to keep the group around the 20, sometimes a little bit more, sometimes a little bit less. But if you want to work in tactical things, it's not possible. And I think if players have a different mind about their future, what they want to do or what they see themselves, and we cannot offer them what they want to offer from us, then it's better, I think, to focus on the guys. They are on our track and try to do everything that this club is successful. And this is the players I want to focus on, I want to work with. And that's the reason why I try to reduce the group. In a number of players, it is possible to work with them, and it was, I think, the only chance last season to save the Premier League for us. As you know, in the winter we sent, I think, 4 or 5 players away and didn't take one in, and in the end we took more points than in the first half of the season. This summer we tried to change slightly the group, bring new players in. I think their character, for the character, is fantastic. And they want to go with us this way. And if this happens, then they are welcome. Then I invite them to be successful with us.
Thank you. Do you mind if I ask a quick one, Martin or Toby, whichever? I'm presuming that when Charlie Austin went, that enabled you to get Kevin in late to balance the books. How much difference will it make to the future if some of the players Ralph has talked about are by September the 2nd out on loan or are sold? How much does that help January / next summer?
Sure. I mean, it makes a difference for sure. We have the transfer fee part of it, but also the wages. The wages part is increasingly important in Premier League teams because they're pretty high, and we have to deal with that. So you know, Ralph laid out pretty clearly his view, which is his job is to produce the best team he can with the assets we have, and then it's our job to then move on the players that either don't want to be here or we think are not right for us right now. So if we're able to move them on, yes, it will free up the ability to do some work in January and in the future. And as I said to the gentleman in the front row, it's not about fixing it today for us, it's about fixing it over 2 or 3 windows. So the sooner you can do that work, the better.
Thank you. Question over there, gentleman on the far side.
Basically, what I'd like to ask Ralph is, I know he's a broad-shouldered man, and it's great to have him at our football club. Thank you for coming. It's a breath of fresh air. But my question is, given that Danny Ralph left in the summer, and I know you feel like you can take on the responsibility, but I'd like to see a number 2 alongside you to help you.
There you go. He cares about
You know?
it as much as I did last week.
Very quickly, just one other thing.
Oh.
Nathan Redmond signed a new contract. So, Pierre, when are you signing your new contract?
Okay. Let's have some fun with this. Let's get Pierre's answer first while it's fresh in our minds. As soon as they put one in front of you, I should think. Right, come on then, Pierre.
Want a pen?
No, it's a good question. No, to be fair, I know for some people you need to sign a contract or you need to show on long terms that you're committed to the club. But I can assure you all, there's absolutely no doubt that I am 100% committed to the club. So, yeah.
Just out of interest, I can't remember. Do you know how much you've got left on your current one?
I don't know.
Okay. Anyone?
I can answer that if you want.
You can answer that, can you?
I mean, it's probably worth me answering, just to say that Pierre's been very clear with us, very upfront about his intentions and what he wants to do and when he wants to do it, and that's sort of private information for him. But we have a set bunch of things we need to do. Get Nathan signed up, get some new players in, get some players out, and Pierre is part of that. And Pierre's been upfront and clear dialogue with us on those discussions, and they will go on when everybody's ready. But there's no confusion with it. It's just finding the right time.
How refreshing an answer was that? Thank you, Martin.
Right.
The first part of the question was about you obviously being not having a classic English style assistant manager with you currently. And I remember saying to you last week, what's going to happen, and you were quite happy as you are. So what is the situation? Will you change the setup eventually or add someone or not?
Yes, I think the more important thing is to bring somebody in is to bring the right one in. I think this is the more important thing, and you can be sure in football, players stuff. It happens that they go a different way and to another club, and then you have to look and to see who fits perfect to my philosophy of football, who fits perfect to our stuff. And you can be sure that behind the scenes we are working on this person and on this personality. And I think, we know that we must do something here because we have lost Danny, and I think we are a little bit looking on different persons. And the most important thing for me is, and it's not so easy to find a guy that is really on the level that can help us. And if we find one, and I'm positive that we can do this in the future, in the near future, then we will bring somebody in, that's for sure.
Thank you very much. And great questions as well, sir. Thank you. Next question, please. Where are we in?
Carol White
Hello,
from
Carol.
season ticket holder from Shirley. As I understand it, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, our new Chinese owner does not intend to put any money into the club. So does that mean the only way we can buy is to sell?
Okay, thank you very much for the question. Her understanding is that, Toby, the owner is not putting any money into the club, and you have to sell to buy. What's the reality?
That's the current situation. We've been open about that since Mr. Gao invested in the club. We're acting on a self-sustaining basis. So yes, everything that we generate, either from a football point of view or from a commercial point of view, is going back into the football club. But yes, you have that correct at this time.
Martin, do you have anything to add to that about Mr. Gao and his position as owner of the club, and what you know about his ambition for the club or his love of the club, etc.?
Sure, yeah. I think there's probably two things to add to Toby. One is that is the way it's been here for a long time, so it's not new. We work in a self-sustainable environment. We don't take money out the club to put into anything, so it's not new. And I think the other thing Mr. Gao said to us privately, and I think he also said publicly recently, that his feeling is that if we are going to spend additional funds and we are going to invest in this team, we need to get ourselves organised first. Okay, so I think everybody in the room knows maybe some funds were not spent perfectly. It's very difficult. You can't always get it right. But let's get ourselves in order. Let's get the Southampton way back and working. Let's make sure everything is in order under Ralph's leadership, and then we'll then look at that again. But in reality, we are, like many teams, in a position where we can spend every penny we've got. We cannot spend money we haven't got, and that's just our reality, and we work with that.
Thank you, Martin. Ian Wilding is like the Scarlet Pimpernel. There he is. Thank you. Gentleman at the back.
Hiya. So my question is around sponsorship. So obviously I think I speak for most people in the room. The new sponsor no one's ever heard of. We've been told it's a lucrative deal. What does that mean? So Virgin Media last season and the seasons they sponsored us, they did a lot for the fans. What are the new sponsor going to do for us as fans and for the club in general?
Reminds you of Monty Python. What are they going to do for us? Right, Toby, let's get you on that as managing director, I think, with LD Sports.
Yeah, so LD Sports do have a focus in China. I think we've been open about that from day one. We're working closely with them, creating content, focusing towards that market. I completely understand that they're not a name that people have heard of here. I think over time they will become certainly more visible. At this stage, I don't have any information I can give you around what they may or may not be doing for the fans. It's obviously very different to Virgin Media, where Virgin Media have a very strong presence in the UK and are in fact a UK brand. So would always be looking to do things to build their brand in the UK, whereas LD Sports do have that focus on China and Asia. So in time, there may be things that they'll be doing here, but right now I don't have anything concrete I could give you to say that they'll be doing specifically for Southampton fans.
Martin?
Yeah, I think it's also worth saying that Virgin Media is still a sponsor, and that was a small bit of detail I was involved in, and I was in that meeting, and they still want to do the same things that they're doing, or different things in the same way. So they're still a sponsor, they're still part of the club, and they're very, very keen to continue the fan work they're doing. The new sponsor is a new world for us, a new environment. They paid us, which is important, because we need those funds, and then we work on what they do next, but they won't be massively visible in the UK because they're not a UK brand. They don't have an operation here. They have an operation in Asia, and they'll be very visible there. So for us, being blunt, the money makes a big difference to our budget, and then we see what we can do with them from there.
Yeah, as far as I've done my research, they're a Chinese company facing the Asian market with what they do. That's fair enough, yeah?
100%. Yeah.
And LD is nothing to do with Lander, before anybody maybe wants to ask that question and waste it. Ian, where are you? There you go. Sir.
Steve, it's a question again, unfortunately for you, Toby. It's to do with the purchase of the club originally by Mr. Gow. Was any of the money that Mr. Gow used to purchase the coast borrowed? And if it was borrowed, are any of the interest payments coming out of the club's pocket, which they could potentially invest in the squad and the club?
So on the second part, no, nothing is coming out of the club, no dividends, no interest payments, no, as Martin said, every penny that we have is going back into football. So Mr. Gow has not taken anything out from the day he purchased it. In terms of how he structured that purchase, that's not information that we've been privy to. That's a private matter for him, how he got the funds to do that, so that's not something I'm able to answer, I'm afraid.
But there's no Glazer situation where there's interest every year to be paid on it?
None whatsoever, and our accounts show that, so you'll see that from last year, nothing going out, and there'll be nothing going out for the year just ended as well.
Yeah, for clarity, there's no new debt. Has that gone off?
Okay.
There's no debt from Mr. Gow on the club. And as Toby says, we have a very clear understanding and no money goes out of the club. So I can understand why people would worry about that, but that is a contractual obligation that we have.
Right, thank you very much, gents. Clear answer. There you go, Ian.
My question is to Ralph and Pierre-Emile Højbjerg.
What's your name, by the way, young man? Let's start with
Avatar.
that. Hello, nice to meet you.
What do you think about VAR?
Okay. I might just say now, we've only got 25 minutes left, and you are listening to BBC Radio Solent Sport Saints Fans Forum 2019, so if I don't get a chance again. Let's start with the captain. VAR actually helped on Saturday with a disallowed goal against Burnley. What do you think of it? Captains and managers all went along to Stockley Park, like I did, to see the VAR thing and talk to the referees. So what did you think, and what do you think now of the parameters?
I think I have to agree with it, no? So, of course, is to make the game more fair, to make the game more clear. The only thing I hope will not happen is that you lose the, I don't know what you say, the
pace, speed of the game.
No, but more the old
feel of it.
Yeah, you know, football is football. You can play it everywhere, and not everywhere there is a computer screen to check if it's in or out. So to keep the football tradition, I hope we still will do that. But of course, VAR will help everyone to get a fair decision.
Ralph.
I think the good thing in England is that they really tested it very well for 2 years. It's a big difference to Germany. When I started with the VAR, they tested it nearly in the first season, so it was horrible, a disaster, a lot of wrong decisions. Finally, there are scenes in the game a human being cannot say if it's offside or not or onside. So for this, I think the VAR is perfect. No other chance to see the line like on this video screen. In other decisions like penalty or hand or something else, it's always about decision from a human. If you ask here in the audience, is this a foul or not? The half will say yes, the other one no. So it's the same with the referees. You will never have the right decision. They want to make the football more fair. I think it will be. On the other side, I think it never has to stop the discussion about football, because everybody who discusses the football means that football is alive, and that means everybody wants to see the football, and this is the most important thing. It's not only the 90 minutes, it's before and afterwards to speak about it. It's a crucial part of this game. The decisions have to be still to be taken in the stadium. That's for me very important, not somewhere else in Heathrow or somewhere else. The last decision must be taken in the stadium from the referee, and that's the most important thing, because otherwise I don't go there anymore, because that's the most important thing for me.
Thank you very much. Can I just have a bit of fun with this very quickly? When we went to Stockley Park and got a look and spoke to Neil Swarbrick and did the VAR systems and saw them all work, and they explained how this high bar, for in layman's terms, for us, because it's difficult to understand, that, for instance, play will only go back one phase up to where decisions are made for goals and whatever else, so they won't keep taking it back to a foul possibly on the halfway line if there's 3 crosses afterwards. Which brings me to the example they did, which was the second Liverpool goal in April when Mo Salah was offside. For the first Liverpool goal. No, they didn't equalise before half-time, and then it was 2-1 at 80th minute. Was it that first one? Sorry, you're the manager, I know. You should know, yeah. Oh, shut up. Touché. Pierre, if this season you know or have a 90% thought in your head that there's a player offside, ball goes over the top, and obviously what happened on that occasion was there were 2 or 3 crosses before Liverpool scored, which is more than one phase. So if a player goes through and you think there's been a foul or offside against your team, do you let them score this season? Or do you bring them down for a penalty so it comes back?
That was too many questions. I think again, VAR is VAR, so they will know. And I think in the end, what we player have to do is that to continue until the ref makes a decision. We can do nothing else, otherwise we looks a bit stupid. So we just keep running until the whistle blows.
And have you had to change how the players train for VAR, Ralph? Do you actually change anything about the way you play because VAR's there? Or what you do in training sessions?
You don't train, but there's a clear message that when the linesman raises their arm and the flag, that you still go on defending, because there's no whistle, means the game goes on, and when there's a goal and it was not offside and the linesman was raising the arm, then it's a goal. So stay on working, stay on defending, because otherwise, you have a problem.
It'll bite you in the backside. Next question. Ian, where are you? Oh, there we go. Thank you.
Hello.
Good evening.
Hi. Jude Ball, Northam, season ticket holder. Question for Pierre and Ralph. Both of you guys have obviously had great experience in the Bundesliga. Obviously, we're British, and us fans are not quite the same, as in how we kind of respond or how we kind of get the atmosphere going. But what would you like to see from us in with regards to getting the atmosphere going for you and to helping you get the performance that you want?
So in other words, what can be done from the stands to make them feel better on the pitch? On the pitch. Okay,
Absolutely.
so are there any lessons to be learned from the Bundesliga?
Yeah, and also how does it affect you with how we are towards you?
Right, let's start with the captain then, because obviously, first of all, is there something, some sort of Poznan or something they could do to get you excited, or whatever, and also, go on, Pierre.
I will start with the second question. When you guys give 100% when the stadium is full, we players really feel it. From the beginning to the end, when we sit in the changing room before the game, we feel the whole buzz, we feel the whole atmosphere. And I know it's a cliche, but that's 100% an extra percent. And it's like being 12 on the pitch, because to have a crowd behind you, and a crowd who is supportive, and a crowd who is cheering and who is pushing forward, then as a player there's only one thing to do, and that is keep pushing and be 100% hungry for always the next situation.
I think the nice thing about these two is that obviously they both show their passion to you supporters, so you feel that from the captain 100% and the manager when they score. Have you got anything to add to that, Ralph? I mean, does the Bundesliga do things about atmosphere, for instance, that could come to England, or we could do more here in the environment of the stadium before a match or during it?
It's very interesting because in Germany, I think they're all looking to England, how fantastic the atmosphere in the stadium is in England, and everybody wants to be like England. And in England, you hear about the German maybe can help us to get more atmosphere. I think it's very special here in England, what I have seen so far. I think it can change immediately. It can be one bad scene and suddenly it's very quiet in the stadium, and one good scene and you think the roof goes away. So it's unbelievable for me. It changes so quick. I think when we give you chances, when we give you pressing, winning the ball, attacking, then you are unbelievable. Then you are very loud, and then we are enthusiastic. Unbelievable atmosphere. I remember a few games. It was amazing. And on the other side, sometimes I think a little bit more patience when it doesn't go in that way we want to help the players feeling comfortable that you are behind them. I think that can help them massively. And I know that's not always easy. But I think I must say that the atmosphere, if you play good, is absolutely amazing. I get goosebumps when I stand there down there, and everybody who is coming to visit me from Germany said it's unbelievable atmosphere in the stadium. And hopefully we have more of moments where we can celebrate together. But for me, it's also important that I see how the fans react when we are not in the best shape, when we are not in a flow, when we have struggling a little bit, because that can help us really to turn a table, to like against Tottenham at home, come out of the break, feel that you are behind us, and then show a reaction, because the first 45 minutes was not that perfect. And that's what I want to say. Be with us also when it's not perfect running for us. Thanks a lot.
It's coming up to 7:15 on BBC Radio Solent. We've got about 15 minutes to go at the Saints Forum 2019. There are 4 or 5 hands up over here, Ian. So when you finish with this area here, I'd love you to shoot over here, please, for these next 4 or 5 that have been waiting. So let's start first with that gentleman over there.
Apologies to put a downer on what Ralph just said, but I'm going to take it back to what Martin said earlier about the you want to sort of consolidate us as a mid-table club and then push on to Europe. Is there a time frame on that? Because obviously Højbjerg is probably a bit above us quality-wise. Ralph is a great manager, managing the Champions League, so we want to keep it realistic, but also if it's going to be in 5 years' time, they're probably not going to be sat in front of us right now. Yeah. So is there a time frame on that? And sort of what do we need to do to learn from our mistakes of pushing on to Europe and then selling our best players
I got it.
and then ending up in a relegation fight?
So time scale-ish.
Yeah, I got the question. I think... I didn't say I wanted to consolidate as a mid-table club. That's not what it's about. What it's about is making sure you're in that group so you can push on. So the gentlemen to my left and right, are high-quality individuals, and they're here because they believe they can kick us on forward. And if they see us improving every year, I think they'll stay. But we have to continually improve. But for me, it's not about picking that final destination. It's not about saying we have to be in 7th this year or 6th. We have to just be in that group to give us a shot at it. And it's unrealistic. And I think it's potentially possible that in our past we've put timescales on a destination. I think there was a 5-year plan here at one point where we said we're going to be here by then. And I think people get distracted by that. So our view on that is we must be in that group. We must have a consolidated and structured environment so we can kick on. But I spend a reasonable amount of time with Ralph, and there's no conversation with him about we must stay in this group or be at this position. We just have to keep pushing on and keep moving. So we look at it this year that we want to get to that level. We don't start any game or any season thinking we must be in 12th this year because then we can crack on from there. But the business side has to have that. But Ralph talked a little bit about finding players that are in a point of their journey that they can move with us and improve. And it's the same with the manager, it's the same with the coaches. You know, we're all here because we want to see us improve year on year and get better. And I think that's probably what we have to keep doing every year.
Thank you, Martin. Next question, Ian. Thank you.
I was just going to ask,
Go on then.
the kit was due out on the 29th of June. It's now the 15th of August, and it's been put back towards the end of the month. What's the cause for the delay, and what's going to be done in the future to stop, another delay?
Thank you very much. I've got the question. Right. Toby Steele.
Yes. Not a good situation for either fans or the club. Let's be clear, we're not sitting here thinking this is a satisfactory situation at all. As you know, we put a statement out last week talking about it to do with the logo and the embellishment on the strip. We've now found a solution with that. Worked very closely with Under Armour, who've been very supportive. So this is not an Under Armour issue; it's a third-party issue. Now got a solution to that. We're hoping the kit will be ready and available by the end of the month. The third kit is currently available in the store. I know, again, appreciate that's not the one that we're going to be wearing every week, but we're doing everything we can to get it out as soon as possible. It's not ideal. We're very disappointed as well. It obviously doesn't make us look particularly good, but the situation is as it is, and we're doing everything we can. In terms of it not happening again, obviously this year, LD Sports came in relatively late, so the logo also went on late, so we didn't have really that much time to rectify the problem. Were it to happen again, we'd be printing those shirts in January, February time. We don't expect it to happen again, but if it did, we'd have plenty of time to resolve it. So,
thank you. Hope that answers the question. Yeah, it's happened at Bournemouth a few times as well. Right, just to say. Right, I think I just lost concentration then. Right. Ian, next gent, sir.
My name's Hassan.
Hello.
My question for you is, we had this stepping stone model under Les Reed. Okay, it worked the first few years with Sadio Mane, Virgil van Dijk, but the last few years we've had a massive problem, including this summer with Mario Lemina, where he came out and said in the French newspaper, when he signed, he was promised you do your 2 years and you get a stepping stone to a bigger club. Have the board now looking at maybe going away from this stepping stone model and going back to the Cortese regime, where we had a 4 or 5 year plan of getting somewhere and we reached it. We had a 5-year plan to get in the Premier League, we did it in 3. We had a 5-year plan to get into Europe, we did it in 3. So are the club looking back and trying to go back to that model, which was very successful for us?
Okay, thank you. Good questions. I was wondering if we'd get through Nicola and Les at some stage tonight, mentioned. Right, Martin, let's do the stepping stone model, the club that people want to be at to get onto an enormous club.
Sure. It was a very successful plan, but let's deal with the stepping stone. So we don't see ourselves as a stepping stone club at all. Mario Lemina was not promised a 2-year deal and then he can go to a bigger club. That just doesn't happen. It's media fiction. People don't do stuff like that. What is reality is we can't survive buying players, turning them into world-class players and keeping them all. That's just not our model. And even if it was our model and we could survive like that, the players wouldn't stay. So we've just got to be realistic about it. If you take an individual, I've said his name once already now, Virgil, I'm going to regret saying it again, but a player like that came here, he improved under our leadership and our guidance, and then he was worth a lot of money and he wanted to go somewhere else. Under no circumstances is a player like that going to stay with this club. It just doesn't happen anymore. So don't think that it does, but we don't see ourselves as a stepping stone club. That's not what it's about. But we have to develop a football strategy and a vision that works. And that vision is to bring in young players, have a quality coach and coaching staff around to make them better. And then when they get really good, sell them for a lot of money and go again. And that's just the reality of where we are.
Thank you.
Sorry, I think it's worth saying that we want players who want to be here. So we don't want people who are going to be disruptive in the dressing room. So when you have a Virgil situation, there's no point in us trying to keep somebody, particularly when the money that they are being offered, we can't afford. And we talked earlier about sustainability. We've just got to work within the means we have, and there comes a time where we say this works best for both parties.
My point is that players see the map, players go to Liverpool, Spurs, and the big clubs.
Yeah.
That's why they join Southampton.
Yeah, that's happened many times.
Yeah,
Just they don't join for the 4 or 5 years because they really want to be here. They join it because they know in 2 years they can do it.
Okay, thank you. I don't want to go over this too many times. Go on, Martin.
Well,
No?
I'm just going to say, and that's okay, right? So it's okay for a player to come here from Germany, from Denmark, and think, I'm going to develop really well at this club. If we lose that, then what else do we have? right? We just have the money to pay the salaries. So if you look at players like Pierre to my left, and maybe he'll answer this himself, he came here because he felt he would develop brilliantly well at this club. He does not arrive here thinking one day I want to go to Man United. If that happens, it happens. But he comes here because he thinks we have the infrastructure and the league to make him a better person and a better player. And that we have to have that. If we don't have that, we just become a series of other clubs that I won't mention on live radio. But that's the reality.
Pierre, do you want to add to that about the way you came to the country?
No, absolutely. I think my dream, my targets are to get up every day, to be surrounded by great professionals, a good club, and here where I am right now is fantastic. I want to get better every day, and I want to have many, many successful seasons with Southampton Football Club, because I think that's what we can do. There's a lot of work to do. I said in the beginning, sometimes you need patience. You don't have it. I understand. We players also, we don't have it. But most important is behind closed doors, we're working in the right way. We're working together. We have a coach who is very determined in making a group who is competing against the best. And on Saturday, with you guys in the back, we have a great opportunity to really start the season in a good way.
If I can just get a supplementary answer out of the manager on this situation. I know a lot of fans would say to me and have said, why didn't we go for a Cahill or a Jagielka or someone like that with experience at the back that we haven't got? We buy young players. But as far as I can think, you drive the young player philosophy more than the rest of the club. You are adamant about this, aren't you?
Yeah, because I think it's without alternative. I remember 2 seasons ago with Leipzig, I played Champions League with an 18 and 19-year-old centre-back. So, for example, we must accept that they may make one mistake more than the other one, but I can guarantee you 2-3 years later, when they played several games in the Premier League, you will be very proud of them, like a Jan Verri, for example. And I think that's a more healthy way for a club, and that means, I think in the moment we are nearly the youngest team in the Premier League, as I know.
You were last season, the average youngest age.
Yeah, the youngest age.
11.
And it's a big challenge for me to be successful with the maybe youngest team in the Premier League. But I can tell you once, when you are successful with this team, it makes more fun than everything else. And I think you can be more proud of this team than with any other team when they are successful. That's what I want to be.
Right, we are fast running out of time. Let's see if we can get through another question. Ian. You can as much as you like. Where's the microphone? Right, Ian, where are you? Thank you. Right, let's have this question over here.
So my question is for the board of directors at Southampton Football Club. You spoke previously and you said that Mr. Gow is not willing to invest any new money. But is Mr. Gow a businessman? Because in business, you need to invest money to make money. Or in football case, you need to invest money to progress. In 2016, we were 3 points off the Champions League. Since then, it's been a downward spiral. So, I mean, if he's not going to invest money when we have players like Virgil, or managers like Koeman and Pochettino we've had before, if you can't invest and pay their salary or buy new players, then how are we going to keep hold of them? Are we just going to keep them going down? Because we really do need investment at this club.
Okay, so it's about investment from the owner rather than investment from broadcasting rights and so on. That's effectively the question, which you should have answered.
Yeah, I understand the question, but let's try and answer it again. Would anybody sitting on this table like more money? Of course we would, and we could do good things with that money. But to say that we don't have investment is not right. Our wage bill in the Premier League has probably gone up 25, 30 million since those days. I think I'm not sure I'm getting that right, Toby will tell you, but it's gone up a lot. Our wage bill has gone up hugely. We're able to buy players at much higher values than we were in those days. So we are investing. Everybody else is investing around us. But would we like to have a big chunk of money put in front of us right now? Yeah, of course we would, but we don't have that situation. But again, just to reiterate Mr. Gow's view on this, which is we need to sort ourselves out and make sure we have a clear plan and make sure we're under control before we invest more funds than we're already investing.
Thank you very much. Ian, let's see if we can grab another one.
Hi, Nick.
Hi, Nick.
I just wanted to ask, with Kevin Danso deal, is his option solidly on ours that we're not going to end up with another Toby Alderweireld situation?
Right, good question.
Yeah, I mean, very simply, yes, it is. I mean, we obviously are aware of that previous situation, and we have made it very hard for that to happen again. So yeah, he's a long-term option for us, hopefully.
The phrase I remember is an exclusive option to buy.
Yeah, I mean, we use the word obligation, don't we? I think, and there's an obligation. Sorry,
There's an
option to
yeah.
buy that, but it's on our side.
That'll be private at this stage, I imagine, don't you? Right, I don't know if we've got time for one more. This gentleman here is desperate, and what Ian's running over like a galloping horse.
Good
We've got to be
evening,
quick.
ladies and gentlemen.
Never mind.
My name is Ted.
Yes,
Ted Sainty. Sainty.
Thank you, Ted.
I've supported Southampton Football Club for over 81 years. And I bring my family along as well, 10 of them. So there's 11 of us all together. But what I want to say, I've got faith in Ralph.
What a wonderful gentleman, and what a wonderful way to round off the audience participation in this year's Fans Forum. I would just like to remind you all, of course, as we said, that of course every match is live on BBC Radio Solent and on the Saints website with myself and Dave throughout the season. We have a new lunchtime Saturday sports show which builds up to our big sports show at 2 o'clock now, so we're on air previewing games from 12, which I'm very happy about on a Saturday afternoon, where we'll all be contributing between 12 and 2, and you'll be hearing from players and so forth. But we are just about done. It is almost 8 o'clock. I thank everybody in the room for your goodwill, your participation, your applause, and also for the way you've treated the panel this evening. Your panel has been Managing Director Toby Steele, Chief Executive Martin Semmens, Captain Pierre-Emile Højbjerg, and the Manager Ralph Hasenhüttl. Just finally, thank you to the club for doing the forum again for another year. Thank you for listening to us throughout the season. And from me, Adam Blackmore, and the rest of the BBC Radio Solent Sport team, a big thank you for this evening. Good night from St Mary's. See you at the weekend.